Padel, one of the fastest growing sports in the world. It's played by David Beckham, Serena Williams, and here in the Northwest, Jurgen Klopp has been seen playing against Liverpool players Salah and Thiago, and Pep Guardiola is a big fan of the sport too and has reportedly installed courts in Manchester City's training grounds. But what actually is Padel? I want to find out more about this new sport that appears to be all the rage. I can't be the only one who doesn't know much about it, so I asked some people in Manchester City Centre what they know about the sport. What is Padel?
What is Padel? Paddles, I don't even know what Padel is.
Padel is that kayaking.
Paddle, like a paddle. It's that instrument you use in the water, isn't it?
And it's like the thing where you can just row a boat.
It's like a tennis, like a mini tennis.
Is it like a racket?
Is it like ping pong or like tennis or something like that?
Is it like a paddle board kind of game with a tennis ball maybe?
Oh, it's like a table tennis thing, but it's not table tennis. It's like tennis, but it's like with a bat, like a table tennis bat.
A few people described the sport as like tennis, which is true, but there are a few key differences between Padel and its better-known counterpart. Firstly, tennis is considered more technical, whereas Padel is easy to pick up and more tactical as you have to anticipate your opponent's movements. In tennis, there are no surrounding walls and the ball must stay within the court boundaries, but in Padel, the ball is allowed to hit the surrounding walls. The pace in tennis is slower than in Padel, the scoring is the same and the rules are pretty similar. The Padel racket is more compact than in tennis, the ball is slightly smaller and the court is too, measuring 20 metres in length and 10 metres in width. It turns out Padel isn't as new as I initially thought, and it's been around since the late 60s. In 1969, wealthy businessman Enrique Carcahuera decided to adapt his squash court in his home in Acapulco, Mexico, creating what he called Padel Carcahuera. Enrique's friend Prince Alfonso tried this new sport and fell in love. In 1974, he built the first two paddle clubs in Spain at his hotel in Marbella. The following year, Marbella regular Argentine millionaire Julio Montegoy imported the sport to his country, where it became a sporting sensation. In 1991, the representatives from the Spanish, Argentinian and Uruguayan paddle associations formed the International Paddle Federation. 1 year later, the British Paddle Association was formed by a group of British expats who wanted to compete in the World Championships. The first World Paddle Championship was held in Spain in 1992. Fast forward to 2011, paddle became more accessible in the UK, with the first courts being built by David Lloyd Leisure. The British Paddle Federation was established in the same year, and in 2019, the Lawn Tennis Association formed an alliance with British Padel, and LTA Padel was born. Today, there's about 90,000 active players in the UK, according to the Lawn Tennis Association. It's described as one of the fastest growing sports in the world and has seen exponential growth on a global scale. For example, Italy has seen its number of courts increase fivefold since early 2020, and here in the UK, paddle courts have grown by 600% since 2019, according to data from the LTA. Currently, there's over 450 paddle courts here in the UK and almost 15 clubs here in the Northwest, including Club de Padel. I decided to head down and try it out for myself. Club de Padel is Manchester's first exclusive paddle club. Located in Deansgate Square, Club de Padel brings the fast-paced sport to the city centre. It has 4 courts which are often fully booked with regulars, coaching sessions and newbies like me who want to give paddle a try. All the equipment is provided and it even has a coffee shop on site for a post-match beverage. Padel is played in doubles, but today me and my friend Dom played one-on-one, and since it's my first ever time playing Padel, he brought me up to speed with the rules. Play starts with an underarm serve and the ball must go diagonally over the net and bounce on the opponent's side. The ball is only allowed to hit the glass walls on the serve, but not the cage, or it is out. The ball must bounce before the return is played, so no volleys are allowed. Each shot must clear the net and bounce in the court before hitting the walls. If the ball directly hits the walls or the cage without bouncing first, then it is out. Unlike tennis, players are allowed to volley the ball off any shot except on the initial serve and the return of serve. Padel uses the same scoring system as tennis, with points awarded as 15, 30, 40 and game. Game is won by the first side to reach at least 4 points. I actually found Padel very enjoyable, and unlike many other sports, it's actually very easy to pick up if you've never played before. It's also a full body workout and can burn up to 800 calories per hour. Off camera, Club de Padel's head coach Alberto told me his favourite thing about the sport is the social aspect, and I can see what he means. Because it's a team sport, joining a club can be a great way to meet new people. I spoke to Club de Padel regulars Luca and Jack to find out what it is they love about the sport. How did you get into paddle?
You're probably best off going first.
So
I got introduced to paddle by my stepdad a few years ago when I was living in Dubai, and I used to play here and there, but not that seriously. But when I saw this open in January, I decided I was going to take it up a little bit serious and find my competitive self a little bit more and give myself a challenge.
And then he got me into paddle. We live in Spinningfields, so we've seen this open, and always seen him playing out in Dubai. I thought I'd get into it, give it a go, and then fell in love with it since January. Just been sort of consistent since then.
How often do you come down here?
Probably 4 times a week, 4
Yeah,
days a
4 or
week.
5 times a week I play.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
And have you done any tournaments?
Yeah, I've played a few. I played a few in Dubai, competing against the UAE national team I played against, which was tough. And I've only done one here, but I'm looking to do more.
Hey, so what are they like then? How do they work?
It's just a knockout. So your first game's knockout. If you win, you go through. If you lose, you're out. So it's quite intense, and everyone's there to win. So you have to be on your game more.
What is your favourite thing about paddle? Why paddle, not tennis, not squash? Why paddle specifically?
It's just engaging. It's much more engaging. Like if the ball goes over your head, it's still in, and sort of using the glass as a friend. You know, even at a low level with tennis, if it goes over your head, that's it. It's out. With this, sort of even at lower levels, you can have a game. Like you can get a rally going, and then that sort of even like the sound of the ball hitting the bat and all. It's just such an adrenaline rush. It's such an addictive sport.
Yeah, definitely.
Once you start getting rallies going.
For me, I think it's you're playing with one other person. So if you're making your mistakes, you're costing 2. So it pushes you to make sure that you're doing the right things and not messing up for your teammates.
Playtomic is a big thing as well with the levels here. You know, you're competing constantly to get your levels up, and with mates, you're constantly chasing the mate that's better than you. It keeps everyone sort of engaged.
That's really cool. What levels are you on?
Mine's not very good. I'm at 1.6.
I'm 3.
Wow! Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
remind me not to play against you.
No, I'll take it easy.
Thanks.
Right.
It's great to hear that Jack is starting to play at a competitive level here in the UK. I'm curious to find out what is next for paddle. Could it take over from tennis? Could it be an Olympic sport one day? I set up an interview with Mike Dale, the editor of the Paddle Paper, an online newspaper with all the latest paddle news, to find out what he thinks the future of this addictive sport looks like. Have you seen sort of the rise in paddle at a competitive level across the UK at the moment?
It's really interesting to see a sport growing from nothing and how like that growth is just heading in a 1,000 different directions. Whereas something like tennis or squash or football or any other traditional sport you care to mention, those structures are already in place and have been in place for decades. Whereas paddle now, it's all up for grabs. So things like schools competitions, university competitions, county championships, age group championships, like there's people jumping in and just saying, right, I'm going to start that. You know, I'm going to start a university competition. So people with the most dynamism and the most get up and go are seizing those little pockets of activity.
Do you think we could see it, you know, globally? Could it be an Olympic sport one day?
It depends on a whole load of factors. But being cynical, the most important of those factors is who you know. Paddle needs to get its contacts book out and go to the right events and the right conferences and the right parties and make sure they get to the most influential people.
What do you think's next for the sport in the UK?
Yeah. Well, and most importantly, it continues to grow at grassroots level. That is absolutely vital. I mean, and it will do. I mean, in my position, I get emails virtually every week from people saying, "Oh, we're opening a new club. Can you come to the opening?" I can't go to them all because there's so many. So that's going to continue. Like there's no question about that. More and more investors are investing in building these clubs. Manchester is a prime example. Then there's more coming. There's a 10-court club at the Trafford City coming later this year. So, and that's going to continue. So that will be, in terms of the near future, that's that's what we've got. It's just flooding as many areas of the country as possible so that as many people take up the sport.
Now I've learnt more about the sport, I've tried it out, and I've spoken to some people that are passionate about padel, I now know what padel actually is, and I can definitely see the attraction. What do you think? Would you like to give padel a try?